Early last year, my arcade announced the Atari Gamestation Portable, a handheld evolution of their popular Gamestation Pro. With more control types than any other single handheld, it's had our minds reeling with possibilities. Well, now that the renamed Gamestation Go, or GSG, is finally hitting shelves, is this the right Atari handheld for you? I'm going to try to help you answer that question in this video review right after this. This video brought to you in part by Tommy in the Order of Cosmic Champions. This exciting and heartwarming coming-of-age Gen X novel is available now. Check the link for more info. Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I am John and I am a GenXGrownUp. Thank you for taking the time to click on this video. The brand new Atari Gamestation Go is one of the most ambitious handhelds I've ever laid my hands on, let alone reviewed. Loaded with just about every type of controller input, D-pad, buttons, triggers, trackball, spinner, and numpad, it promises to allow us to play the widest variety of Atari classics with their correct and original input methods. The GSG was first expected to release late 2024, but my arcade instead went back to the lab for further development. During that time, we have learned of an upgrade from a paddle to a spinner and an expanded lineup of Atari Recharged titles, so there's a lot to cover here. Now, this review is going to have a pretty long runtime, but it's your fault. Your fault because so many of you asked great questions about the system in my pre-review video a couple of weeks ago, and I decided to let this review go on as long as it needed to in order to answer as many of your questions as I can. Now, if you want to jump around, I'll provide chapter marks, but if you're looking for the most comprehensive and thorough look at this latest Atari-branded handheld gaming system, then I encourage you to watch straight through, even if you have to stop midway and stretch your legs. Now, along the way, if you decide the Go is right for you, affiliate links to buy can be found down in this video's description. You ready? Let's go! Pun intended. Okay, here we go. Now, I spent a little time last week, a couple weeks ago, I guess, giving a look at the box when all I could do was show you the box. I couldn't open it. So I'm not going to spend much time here. If you want to pause it and look at the highlights and features, we're going to talk about all those features. And of course, a quick peek inside the lid shows you all of the Recharged games, the Pinball games, the Pac-Man games, and then some pause fodder for you. You can pause and look through this, but we're going to kind of wade through all the different things that are the features and the games and everything that is included here. So let's get this thing open and see what is inside the retail package. Once inside, we have all sorts of goodies. So we have a USB-C wall adapter, we have a USB-A to C cable, a thick one, a beefy one too. Really nice cable. We have included an HDMI cable for connecting it up to a display or a TV. And then some printed materials here. First of all, just a quick card to remind you, plug into Wi-Fi for software updates and register your unit. Cool. And then we have, this is a reminder that there are secondary controllers that we saw back at CES, right? So we have the gamepad and then you have the arcade stick. Now, neither of those are available right this second, but they're coming shortly. And if there's any doubt whether they're coming or not, look, they've included an insert to let you know these things are coming. And it looks like they're coming December. So the extra controllers are coming a little bit later. It seems odd. You might want that right away, but I'm sure there's manufacturing issues and stuff. We know how things work in the real world. So these are coming in a couple of months. For now, though, we have the console that we can play on, and this little red box of extra goodies. Let's see. All right, let's see what we've got. We've got our certificate of authenticity. We actually do own a Gamestation Go. There's proof of it there. Nice. Instruction manual. Oh yeah. And look, it's really it's a quick start guide. Look, in English, and then in French, and then in Spanish, and it's just a quick start guide. That's gone, and then we got this guy, probably just some legal. Yeah, some more instructions. Again, toss those. Okay, now what do we got here? Is this a new catalog? It doesn't look like it. It's got the Gamestation Pro on it. Yeah, so it's last year's catalog in here, so more printed material we don't need right now. Okay, to the Gamestation Go now. You and I both had better get used to this camera shot, which is me holding it in front of this camera, because we have a lot to get through. With a handheld like this, not only a couple hundred games, a wide variety, one of the most ambitious collections of inputs on a device of this nature that I've seen in a long time, if ever. Different combinations of that and features within there. Let's start with a hardware tour. Let's start over here on the right-hand side. Here we've got our standard A, B, X, Y buttons in a regular diamond formation here. They're pretty standard buttons. Feel kind of an Xbox One style controller button. They're not clicky, but they have a decent throw to them. I hope you can see that. Just to the right of the screen here, we have the start and select buttons that are used for various functions depending upon the game or the console. Just below these buttons, here's that numpad. Now it's a pad that has 1 through 9, star, and pound. And look, you're wondering like I am, how is that used and what consoles will it be utilized for? I'm expecting 5200. We don't see a lot of other stuff in the lineup of games that will utilize this, so possibly that's for future additions or inclusions. Can't be sure, but we will see. Whipping over here to the left-hand side, here is our spinner. Now, this is not a paddle any longer. It was a paddle for years, year and a half, I guess, and they finally changed it to a fully rotational spinner that can be utilized as a paddle or a spinner, depending on the game. Also, we have the settings and credit buttons here, again, depending upon the console and the game. Those are used differently, and I'm assuming it's going to tell us in the instructions how that's used. Just below that, a pretty standard D-pad, if you ask me. Not an analog D-pad that you might want for some games, maybe 5200 or Food Fight or something like that. But this is a pretty common My Arcade style D-pad. It's round with a raised plus on it, which I always appreciate. And we'll see how that behaves as we get further into this review. Just below that, here's the trackball. Now, people have asked me about the trackball, how it feels. So I can spin it and it just keeps going. And you can't see, it's shiny black, but you should be able to hear it when I spin. Spinning pretty well. Use it with your thumb pretty easily. Yeah, feels pretty good. In the center, we have that 7-inch display that we saw at CES. Pretty good viewing angles. We'll take a look at that when we power it on. Just a logo here. Looks like a pair of forward-firing stereo speakers down here on the bottom. Now let's work our way across the top. So on the left and right, we have shoulder buttons, a bumper and a trigger here, L1, L2. Here we have a power on-off switch. There's the home button. There is that micro SD card slot that we know is going to allow us to expand this, just like we did the Gamestation Pro in previous years. Here's a power charging and on LED. Here is a little 5-volt power in, USB-C charging, HDMI out, full-size HDMI out, as well as we have a headphone jack here, a volume rocker, and here are the R1, R2 shoulder buttons right up there. And then spin it around to the back, we have these nice grips on the side, very much like the Pocket Player Pros we come to see from My Arcade. They allow you to wrap your fingers around that from the front and hold on to this device. Looks like up here we have probably just a cooling vent. 2 USB-C ports here. These aren't the charging ports. These are for accessories. And if you look, it even says controller 1, controller 2 here. So yes, they have wireless controllers. Looks like they work wired as well. Plus, who knows what other controllers might work with this. The Gamestation Pro a couple of years ago was a little spotty with controller support, but with so much input on this thing, we can hope. That's going to be something for a future investigation video, I assure you. And then finally, down here around the copyright and legal stuff, there's a little kickstand embedded right in the back. You can flip that up and stand it up just like this. And you can see if you spin it around here on the side, that kickstand is nice and sturdy. It's holding it up. No bend to it, no give to it. Just pick it up, click it right back in place. Now we have a lot to cover, so now we have an overview of the hardware. Let's fire this Gamestation Go up and take a look at it in action. So first thing you'll notice, the illumination around all the controls. So right now it's powering up, they all light up, including the R1 and R2, all of those buttons. During the operation of the device, only the controls that you need for any given menu or game are what illuminates, which is another of the cool features that we knew was coming here. There's that animation that we saw in the promotional videos. And it's going to drop us right on the main page. There we go. And it looks so we have a ring of light around the D-pad and these A and Y that you need to navigate, and it shows you Y is how to use, A to enter. So first of all, I'm going to just kill the music because I have music on this video already so they don't fight. So I'm going to just jump into settings and just turn that off. Okay, now we're back. So let's navigate all the way back to where we were. So as an overview, you can always hit Y to see how to use. It's instructions. So hit Y, and it's an overview of the Gamestation Go. Kind of telling you about the settings button, the credit, the home, the notes, how to access firmware updates. We'll talk a little bit about that later. how to charge it. It explains how the indicator works. When it's plugged in, it's red when it's charging, green when it's solid. Basically, instructions are, it doesn't matter that I threw away the paper instructions. Instructions are mounted right here in the game. And of course, when I'm in this menu, I can only hit B. So only, you see there, B is illuminated. And now A and Y are illuminated. And I can navigate among Atari Recharged over here, and then Balls of Steel, the Pac-Man offerings, and then of course those Jaleco and Piko games. Why don't we jump into the settings right quick, just for a quick overview. We have so much to cover, but you can turn the music on and off, which you saw me do already. Here's that Wi-Fi update. I'll show you a little bit about the Wi-Fi update again later. Shows what you can reset your system, register it. There's the QR code to do that. Here's some frequently asked questions. It talks about common questions, frequently asked questions. How do I paddle sensitivity? How do you load games, save games? How do you play arcade games, right? How to insert coins, things like that. Things that you might not know if you haven't played this. And that's really where the GSG starts to stand out in terms of, yeah, there are a bunch of no-name, knockoff, handheld emulation devices, but they just throw a mountain of ROMs onto a little device, and it's up to you to figure out how to configure and play it, but that's not what happens here. Let's jump into Atari first and take a look around. So when you're in the individual game menu, you have it sorted by staff picks, so that's my arcade recommendations. Then they group them, 2600, 5200, 7800, Atari Arcade, M Network, which again are 2600 games. It groups the multiplayer games and then your own favorites that you can do and your recently played, which you can do, which I've played a little bit here. As you can see, when I go into 2600, when I'm looking at games, just like before in the main menu, I can use that how to play. So maybe I'm looking at, I don't know, basketball. Let's hit the Y button. Instructions about basketball. First, it talks about what controls, and these will be illuminated when you play the game. 2600 games are pretty much all either the D-pad or the spinner, of course. The select, the start, the D-pad over there, and then you can see just general settings about difficulty settings and everything that's accessible via that settings menu. Some brief instructions. Look, it's not a whole manual, but some instructions are in here. And it talks about game variations, if a game has like game select and stuff like that. And then expert tips, just a little bit of information. And while you're here, you can also continue to page through the games. Look at Berzerk. Look at bowling. Look at Breakout. Oh, I want to play bowling, actually. So information about bowling. Yeah, so let's play bowling. Let's start the game. And we're playing Atari 2600 Bowling. I can hit start. Oh, not a strike. I got to try one more. I got to get a strike. Look, the 2600 emulation is as good as you would expect it is. It was fine in the Gamestation Pro. It works just great here in the Gamestation Go. Come on, get a strike. Get a strike. Yeah! So while in a game, you can hit select, and that's where you can save your game state. There we go. It's saved with a little thumbnail. You can, of course, also come out and load games. You can see the controls. See the game options in here. TV type, color, black and white, difficulty switches. Set the A and B where you'd like to have them. Paddle sensitivity, if in fact this is a paddle game, you can adjust that. This is not a paddle game, so I can't get to it. That's why. Screen brightness, which I guess I have quite low. Let's bring it up. Oh, now, let's make it nice and bright. Aspect ratio. Oh, I didn't click on that. There we go. And then aspect ratio, you can set to widescreen or original. I keep it on original because I don't want to stretch out my games. And then back to the game, or you can just hit B, and you're right back to the game. Can I get 2 strikes in a row? Probably not. Yes, I can. All right, tapping the home button gets me back to the menu. Then I get back out. All right, so here we are going through the 2600 games. And I'll quickly flip through them. I think you've seen the game list already. But why don't we try something that uses the paddle control? Get down here to Video Olympics. There it is. So here's Video Olympics. We're going to go to the settings, and we're going to look and see, of course, save states, controls, and it's telling me it uses the paddle, so the paddle's illuminated, as you see there. I'm going to use A as my action button, select and start. What about game options? Again, in here, now I can do the paddle sensitivity, low, medium, or high. I'll leave it on medium for now. There we go. Oh. Got him. Now, since this is hardwire connected, I'm not experiencing any noticeable spinner latency. Now, keep in mind, this is a spinner now simulating a paddle, so limited range of motion. Rather than full rotation, it's just the amount of distance you need to travel with a paddle. And if you overturn it, it's just eating that extra turn. And then, look, it's adapted well as a spinner with a paddle. We have said for years, just give us a spinner, because a spinner can be a paddle, but the other way around doesn't work. And so here we see the spinner acting as a paddle. And a little while, we'll see it acting as a spinner too, because you know, eventually we're going to get to Tempest. I can't do 2600 emulation without doing a little Yars Revenge. So I'll hop in there. We're going to go to game option 6, of course. There we go. Start. So this is a good test of this D-pad. How does it behave? I'm able to move rotationally. Look at that. So that's good. Woo, little flicker in there, as you might expect. More than I would expect, actually. All right, so we've got enough bits over here. Yep. All right, I think we got him. Boom. I should also call out that whenever you're in the menu, it has a screenshot of the game with some video running of the game. Again, it's a really nice interface. It's not just a list of game names. You see what's going on. If this is a favorite of yours, you can favorite. So down here you can see X is favorite. Boop. Little heart next to it. What else? Video Olympics maybe is a favorite. I'll make Save Mary a favorite. And then I could come down to the favorites, and there's your favorites all locked in there. And you can, of course, navigate and launch them from there just like you could from anywhere else. Now, before I move on from 2600 stuff, I need to call out Indy 500. This is a favorite. I had a lot of people ask me about this. Look, we have a spinner. Finally, a driving controller. Look at the controls. It uses the D-pad. Now, I'm not calling this out just to bust my arcade's chops. Maybe a little bit. But here, we knew this was going to be the problem going in. I spoke with them ahead of time. I did a little bit of consulting work for my arcade early on. It's important I disclosed that. And I talked to them about how important Indy 500 is to all of us. And how, look, finally you have, in one device, the driving controller, the button, and the ROM all together the way you want to play. And they said, yeah, we're having trouble getting it implemented right now. And I'm like, maybe don't include it. So here's the thing. The fact that they included it, not working yet, suggests to me they're still working on it. Because right now, see the D-pad is illuminated, not the spinner. So when you play it now, it's just D-pad control, which is admittedly subpar. I mean, you can play the game, but it's not the game as you remember it. You don't have that spinner, which is what you want to do. I can kind of muddle through, but what you really want to have is this spinner and your second player on a spinner, and you both want to be driving the way you did with those driving controllers. Because otherwise, there's no good way to play Indy 500 on anything. And here was the first best opportunity, and it's missed. So the fact that it's here, people wanted to know, does it use the spinner? It ought to. It seems like an obvious thing. It doesn't. But the fact that it's still here, as I said, is promising to me that my arcade wants to continue to iterate on this software in these easy Wi-Fi firmware updates, and possibly then get right control of the Indy 500, as well as some other omissions that we've been looking at. Like we saw Star Raiders and stuff might not be in there. Yeah, we know we saw it early on. We'll get to that in a second. Speaking of that, let's move on to 5200 games. Now we have a lot to cover here, and there's going to be some overlap, but a lot of people are asking about this numpad. I really think there was a lot more planned for this numpad, and maybe Atari asked my arcade to hold back. Look, you got to think maybe Intellivision was in mind here, but 5200 utilizes this numpad. Let's hop in here and look. Let's go to Centipede. So what we have is, we know that we move Centipede with the D-pad, so that's going to be illuminated for us. The A is going to shoot. And what about the overlay? Well, there's the overlay. And in fact, Centipede only uses this, 1 or 2 players, and game select, and it shows what is utilized, just these two. So that's going to illuminate when we start the game. So let's launch the game. If you can see, there's the numpad is illuminated along with the A, and sure enough, we can use this 1 player, 2 player. Now, what about I'm in the game and I don't remember what was on the overlay? Now, I think there's an argument to be made for maybe it could be displayed on the screen somewhere, but it is accessible in settings. So I can come down to overlays at any point and see it. So I can always pop in here, in and out, and see what's on the overlay. Not as good as being on the screen all the time, but it's graphically displayed here so you know what it is. So I'm going to do a 1 player, standard play, hard play, easy play. Let's do easy, and we'll just do a quick start. And let's see, start is there. Here we go. Now this, of course, does not use the trackball because this is 5200 Centipede, which did not use the trackball. So, accurate to the original. We're going to get to arcade shortly, and we'll take a look at more trackball games like Centipede and Missile Command in a moment, but 5200. Let me show you another couple of 5200 titles. As I go into the how to play here, I can come down to the overlay and flip through all the different 5200 games and show you, well, there's Berzerk that uses a few of them. Millipede just uses a 1 or 2 player. Missile Command uses quite a number of options there, and they're visible. So baseball, the curve, change up, the fast pitch, the low ball, all that is in there. That you can utilize to play 5200, just like you could, because you have the D-pad. I'm sorry, not the D-pad, you have the numpad now available to you. What other overlays? We have basketball, which has player settings, singles or doubles. Well, let's look at basketball. That's a great version of basketball, actually. Let's fire that up. So here we are, ready to play. Let's check. Some of it is on screen here. We can always come down to the overlay and say, player settings, singles or doubles, and difficulty, which also is represented on the screen here. So I can hit the star for 1 player, 2 player. Demo, cycle through that. We'll do, I guess we'll do 1 player. Singles, doubles, hard play, easy. I'll do easy, so maybe I can actually score. There we go. And then hit start. He's doing a run. He made a drive. Let's go for it. Yes, 2 points. All right, I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. So there's a quick list of all the 5200 games that are available, and notice none of them needed an analog joystick because there's no analog joystick here, so that kind of limited what's available here. Now you might wonder, what about 5200 Star Raiders? Yeah, I feel that way too. And I'm guessing, we saw it at CES, it was on this system, but it's not on here, so I'm guessing there was some trouble with implementation. It's something we want to see added, it's an obvious omission. Let's drop down here to 7800 games. Good selection of those, same deal. I can pop into how to play, and I can see a listing of all the controls, the gameplay, the variations, some tips in there in how to play, and I can navigate through them. You can see, of course, 7800 used an A and a B button, so you have 2 buttons here. So let's try a different game here. Maybe, I like Food Fight on the 7800 is quite good. We'll take a look at how to play. Controls, yep. Throw, A and B are both throw, so no change there. Your objective, variations, 1 and 2 player game, all that's in there. Let's launch it. All right, do intermediate 1 player. I think that's enough, right? Select starting level. That's me. Oh, I do like this version of Food Fight. Better than the arcade, maybe. Arcade's just so tough to control sometimes. Yep. Get to that ice cream cone. Get over there. Oh, get him. Roll. Chomp. I'm finding the D-pad very responsive. I'm very surprised, actually. When I looked at this early on, back just post-CES, the D-pad had a little issue. And I reported it to my arcade, and they said, yeah, we're going to go back to the drawing board and adjust how it's seated in there. But look, I'm able to navigate all the diagonals and directionals the way that I want. I know they'd put some extra work into this. I have to applaud them for that because, oh, I'm running out of time. I'm busy talking to you. Come on, get to the ice cream cone. Oh, I'm running out of time. It's going to melt. It's melting. Oh, I can't get to it. Yeah, I died. I'm busy talking to you, but oh, I want to get plastered. Anyway, that is to say, I'm quite happy with the behavior of the D-pad versus what I saw in an earlier version. It just goes to show, again, how my arcade listens to criticisms and observations and keeps trying to improve on a product. Yeah. And I can pop into the settings, again, save my position. There we go. Little screenshot. At any given time, I haven't demonstrated this yet. Oh no, I died. So let's go into settings and go to load. Probably right before I died. All progress will be lost. Yes, of course. Yeah, that's where I saved right as I was dying. So, what about Atari Arcade? A lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff we haven't seen before and now we can use. So, we're going to get to Tempest. We're going to get to that in a second. Look, Agent X, which is actually a Cloak and Dagger. It was renamed based on the movie. This is, and a lot of people ask me about this, this is a dual stick shooter game. How does that work on here? Great question. Let's pop in and look at the controls. As you may have guessed, this is the left stick, and the 4 buttons in a diamond formation represent the right stick. So shoot up, left, right, and down. I'll show you how that works. So let's jump into the game. And that's true on a lot of dual stick, probably all the dual stick shooter games that I've seen so far have worked in that way. So let's sort of credit, hit start, pick our starting level. All right, so here's my little guy shooting here, diagonals, just 2 buttons together to shoot diagonal. It's just like you've seen, if you've ever seen any dual stick shooter that doesn't have 2 sticks, that's pretty much how it's done, and that's how they're handling it here. So I'm collecting these boxes, not doing a great job. Let's ignite, and we'll drop the fuse in there. Out we go. Watch out for the robots. Collecting all the gadgets on the... Oh, I need to get to the exit before it blows up. See, that bomb is going. Oh, I didn't quite make it. And then I can enter my name, which, by the way, yeah. Are we saving high scores? Yeah, we are. Let's put in GXG. G. There we go. So there's our score. Where are we at? We're down here at number 26. And just to illustrate, let's bail out of this game and come right back in. There we are. Number 26, GXG. Saved game. All right, next. I want to pop into this classic, Atari Football. So this game is a 2-player only game. And since I don't have the second controller here, I can't be a 2-player game. But I want to show you, now that we have the right controls, it uses the trackball the way it was on the original game. Can you see in the picture here of the game? It was 2 people on either side. You each had this giant trackball. And I've played this in testing already as 2 players, and it's awesome. And sure enough, there we go. It lights up the trackball, because that's how you control this game. We have the A and the trackball. If you have any question, you can always pop in and go, what are those controls again? Trackball to move, A for action. Sure. Let's put in a credit. I know it's just 1 player. We won't be able to see it. Now, there's not a second player here. It's just me. But you can see, just like on the arcade game, you can spin that little trackball like crazy to move your guy around. That's just the way it was. He's still trying to pick his play. He timed out. But this is a 2-player game. This is so much fun in the arcade. It's so hard to find one that works. And now we have it with the proper controls. Thank you. Let me take a quick look at Centipede Arcade, because this is going to answer a couple of questions that I saw people asking about controls. And that is, well, what if I... It's weird. Yeah, it uses a trackball. What if I don't want to use a trackball? Can I change that? Now, there's no controller mapping in the Gamestation Go right now. Something I know we were all interested in and we all wanted. However, if you take a look at it, you can control Centipede with either the trackball or the D-pad, if that's what you would prefer. Let's launch it. We'll take a look. Both controls illuminate. So we have the D-pad, we have the trackball, and we have the A button. All are available. Put into credit. Correct aspect ratio, I'll point out. That was a problem on the Gamestation Pro. Yep, or I can use the D-pad if I'm used to that. So correct controls. And I had people ask me too, what about using that trackball or the spinner with your thumb? How does that work? Well, the spinner, not so much, but the trackball works quite well. Oh, except I got killed. I have no trouble navigating that with my thumb. There's also a question of handedness. People said, oh, you know, that belongs on this side, that belongs on the other side. Let's talk about that as soon as we get out of Centipede. Moving on to the third screen, having no trouble. I really like this trackball, and the fact that it's free spinning and you can move around as easily as you like. I mean, it's the way Centipede was supposed to be, and the way we really haven't been able to play it for quite some time. And maybe an emulation with a mouse, you can get close. Yeah, okay, let's battle out of here and talk a little bit before we move on about handedness. So, yes, the Gamestation Go has these buttons here, spinner here, and so many people have said, John, I'm just not used to that layout for a system. And I don't necessarily disagree with you. I don't have the trouble that I thought I would have, because some people go, hey, I'm used to using my joystick with my right hand. Well, but the D-pad is over here in so many systems. On Galaga, use your left hand on the joystick. You know, here's where I land on this. I think my arcade has landed on the best possible compromise for a system like this to find a location for all of these controls. I don't know of a better layout. Honestly, this is where the buttons need to be. Having the buttons on the left would be wrong in so many cases for me, and I'm right-handed. But, I mean, your mileage may vary. This is all subjective, I understand. The spinner could not be anywhere but up here, because down here would be in the way of my hand, and also I would then have to hold it like this to spin it, and really, because the way you have to spin it is to hold it with your hand and kind of dial it with your thumb and forefinger. So that makes good sense. And having it lower wouldn't make any sense, because then you have to hold it down here like this. The trackball down here makes great sense because you can drive it with your thumb, and that works great. This is an obvious location for the controller you use 95% of the games, so the D-pad right here. Maybe there is a better layout. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm 5% ambidextrous or something, but I've had no trouble adapting to where the controls are. It's a little odd at first sometimes to use, say, the spinner with my left hand, But I get used to it pretty quickly, and it becomes transparent. And that's what good controls should do. It really comes down to, are you willing to adapt to something that's different? This is not the original arcade machine. It's hundreds of them in one box. So, again, this is divisive, I know. I just wanted to share with you my observations and what I'm finding. Do you want to play some Tempest? I'm guessing you do. Let's come down. In fact, I'm going to favorite Tempest. It's one of my favorites. So, Tempest it's a place where we're going to see some problems, and it's a place where we're going to see some great stuff. So let's fire this up. So first off, really creative. You can control Tempest with the spinner, or the D-pad, or the trackball. Any of those three will work. You'll probably notice right away, Tempest is here, looks fine. Aspect ratio seems a little off to me. It's a little too wide. That can be adjusted, and we can't. They could adjust that in software if they wanted to help us out. Also, we're not getting the kind of glow or bloom that you would see in a vector game, so it's a little pencily, a little thin. And also in the averaging, because we're not getting that glow, we're losing, see the tops of these letters? We're losing the lines of there, and maybe you'll see some of the words down here. So it's not as close to a vector look as you would want on this raster screen. And I think that could be tuned by My Arcade if they were interested to make, see the bottom of the words, a game over is missing there. In the emulator, they could probably tune this. They have not yet. However, some other things of interest. People ask about the spinner as a test. A true spinner should represent in Tempest one full rotation is one time around the map. So let's put in a coin, and you'll be happy to see that I think that's what we get. Oh, we'll quickly look at the settings. The controls in here. There's all the different controls. Fire, of course, Super Zapper is here. You'll need that. So we're going to start the main game. So here we go. I'm at the top of the screen. I'm going to rotate the bottom, rotate back to the top. That's about one full turn. Oh, I'm going to get killed, of course, because a lot of things in the way. Down to the bottom, back to the top. It's pretty close to a 1-to-1. Super zap 'em. Tempest is an absolute favorite of so many people. And not having a spinner, back when this was just a paddle, you could not play Tempest correctly. And now I'm a little annoyed by the missing lines in the vector display. But the experience of Tempest, this game could be made a system seller. I know so many people that are Tempest fans. Oh, Super Zapper. If they would just fix a little bit of vector beauty there, make it a little prettier. Yeah, because fix the aspect ratio. You can see how it's a little stretched out, a little wide. And we'll see some more of that as we look through the Gamestation Go. There's some stuff that just wasn't properly tuned for a widescreen display when it's supposed to be a 3x4 or a 4x3. I'm spending a lot of time on Tempest because, and again, I can use the D-pad. I can use the trackball. Not as efficient. Actually, it's kind of crazy. Oh, Super Zapper. Let's just finish one more. I mean, I think you see what you need to see. If you're a Tempest fan, how close this is to the Tempest experience you likely want, you likely enjoy. Now let's go ahead and let's die with this game to show you again some high score saving. Entry of high score, because I've seen simulations of spinner control where the spinner was so radical that you couldn't even put in your initials because it was too hard to control. Not the case here. I'm going to put in a GXG, so F, G, go back and do an X. And high score. I beat whoever I last time I played. So, and that high score saves. And there it is up at the top of the screen. And just to illustrate, let me bail out and back in. There's my high score and my initials, just like it should be in the arcade. While we're here in the arcade games, look, there's so many arcade games. I couldn't play every game here and show you in the midst of this review, but there are a few things that I want to show you that are kind of creatively and well done. There's iRobot in there. Major Havoc made it here. Great. Is it Super Bug? So this is a great old Atari game that doesn't get much love. Let's look at how to play it. It uses the spinner as a steering wheel, like you're supposed to. It had 4 gear shifts, 1, 2, 3, 4. They put them up here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can drive, and all the controls are here. The controls you wouldn't normally have on a handheld like this. Let's start this game and show you. Plus the overlay to make the green letters green, the yellow car yellow, and you'll see it's actually a transparent overlay when you drive into things. So let's put in a credit, hit start, steer my car, there's gas, so I'm first gear, second gear, oh, I'm sorry, second gear's over here. Sorry, first gear, second gear, You can see the overlay makes things around me yellow. Third gear. Oh. Fourth gear. Oh, back to third for this corner. There we go. Turn up here. Fourth gear. You just don't get to play this game correctly anywhere. And now you kind of can, because you have the gear shift, you have all those settings. There's another game I want to point out as well to illustrate a couple more features. I remember playing it in the Penny Arcade at Walt Disney World on Main Street and going, this is the best racing is ever going to be. Well, of course, we know that's not the case, but... And you can also use the D-pad if you want, but who would want to do that when you have the correct controls right here? You know what I mean? Another one I wanted to call out while I'm here is Super Breakout, because so many times Super Breakout is dropped on things like this with no way to access the parts of Super Breakout that made it unique, the different layouts and different ways to play. So if I look, let's take a look. Yeah, move the paddle, great, also with the D-pad. Choose cavity, choose double, and choose progressive. The different kinds of breakout are here with dedicated buttons to select them the way it would have been on the arcade machine. It's little things like that that make me happy. It's not just a bunch of ROMs thrown in a box. You know what I mean? Let's launch this game. I'll show you what I mean. When you walk up to a Super Breakout machine in the wild and you put in a credit, you then have a dial, a selector to pick between the different kinds of breakout. And yes, they're all available just like they should be. And away I go. I'm not great at this, but we're going to play a little bit just to illustrate. I've never been great at breakout. I was so happy when it came to my Atari 2600 because I can make the paddle fatter. Little last second adjustments are no trouble. One-to-one movement. And it's still an analog to digital conversion, but it's all happening in the box, and I'm finding it to be very responsive. I mean, you can see, just you be the judge. You look and see. You see my fingers moving. You see the on-screen reaction. There might be a 10, 15 millisecond delay between reaction, but it's not keeping me from playing and enjoying this game. That's for dang sure. Things were thought of here that go unthought of in so many handheld or tabletop or any kind of emulation device. Like Digital Eclipse is doing it right, and I think My Arcade is getting the message that what Digital Eclipse is doing, you have to be comprehensive when you emulate these games. You can't just throw a ROM at people and say, enjoy the game. There's more to the game than just that. There's the correct controls. There's the correct inputs that you need in a variety of locations and places. And they put all that here and thought about it. There's so much more here that I want to talk about. Look, some of these older games, Skydiver, Runaway, oh man, Red Baron, Quantum. I want to show Night Driver for a couple of reasons. So Night Driver, if I pop in and see, we can steer with the steering wheel or the D-pad. We have our gears, 1, 2, 3, 4, same layout of gears like it was in Superbug. Accelerate and track select is here. Let's launch this game. In addition, we got the car overlay. That was just printed on the screen before, right? So put in a credit. I can start. Second gear. Third gear. Whoa. Fourth gear. Whoa! It's working well. Back to first gear. Get out of there. There we go. These old games might not be the thing that brought you to the Gamestation Go, right? Maybe you're like, I want to see the Recharged stuff. We're going to get to that. Maybe I want to see these other newer things, the pinball. But if you ever played or even missed out on these old classic, super simple arcade games from Atari, this is now one of the best places to play them with the right controls, with all the right inputs. I'm not even that big of a Night Driver fan, but having it with this quality, with this accuracy in my pocket, kind of makes me want to play it more. Finally, I've got to play some Missile Command just because we have the trackball here. So we're going to pop in and take a look. Again, you can use the trackball or the D-pad. It's up to you. I don't know what kind of caveman uses a D-pad if they have a trackball for Missile Command, but I'm not going to judge you. Other than calling you caveman, I guess. I will. Credit. Start. Here we go. Oh, how to play. I didn't even look. Yeah, it's the 3 firing locations, and they're oriented across the screen. So left, center, and right for the 3 firing spots that you have in Missile Command, of course. So here we go. Driving with my thumb. This trackball, because it's so small, is also very sensitive. So I find that my movements have to be kind of understated, where I might have just spun like crazy on the arcade machine. But once you get accustomed to that, like I said, a little bit of a learning curve, getting used to this slightly smaller trackball. But once you do, it's the right way to play Missile Command. Beep, beep, beep. Uh-oh, one coming over here. Uh-oh. Oh, got him. Oh, I lost a city. Oh, I had one more. Oh, I've got missiles all across. You get the idea. Bonus city, Missile Command with a trackball, as it should be. All right, there's so much more here to see in Atari. Here's the M Network stuff. It's more Atari 2600 stuff. A lot of them are two-player only, so you're going to have to get that second controller before you can take advantage of some of these. But a nice selection of M Network is added in here. That's the Atari stuff. Shall we move along to Recharged, maybe? I hope you're enjoying this deep dive into the new Atari Gamestation Go. It's really a great time to be an Atari enthusiast, and I love being able to cover all these new products for you. I am going to ask you for your help, though. If you receive value from the work we do here at GenXGrownUp, would you please consider becoming a patron? Over at GenXGrownUp.com/Patreon, you can sign up for as little as $1 a month and actively support the continued production of videos just like this one. I wish I didn't have to ask, but as it turns out, the bank will not accept fun Pac-Man videos as payment for my mortgage, so here we are. I always appreciate you being here and watching, and I hope you'll consider lending a hand. And now let's move on to those Recharged games. This was announced at CES 2025 that there would be a Recharged game, at least one Recharged game on this system. We knew Centipede Recharged was coming. At the time of release, we have 5 different Recharged games available on here. Why not more? I don't know. Maybe more are coming. The fact that they've added 4 more since they announced it and said it's possible to add more games via firmware and updates and things like that. And it's so easy to do now. Again, we'll get to that later in the video. Yeah, so 5 for now, though, which is not too shabby. Well, these games go for at least $10 a piece these days. So there's like a $50 value right there. So we have Asteroids, Berzerk, Breakout, Centipede, Missile Command, all recharged. I'll show you each of them quickly. Now, all of the menu options that were available in the standard Atari games, there's not a setting like that here where you go into Y to C, because the games already have all those settings baked right into the game. So you fire it up and launch it. And again, the smart glow comes on to know what buttons you need to use. The L1 and the R1 you can see are illuminated on here. And then you can use those bumpers to navigate across here, the achievements. Now, no online. Remember, the Wi-Fi in this device is only used right now for updates. So no the Wi-Fi functionality in here, no storage or anything like that. And then you can select, of course, what do you want to play, single player, and then you have, just like you had in the commercial version. Now, what I'm seeing is these are slightly ported, translated versions of these Recharged games to this console, just like they were slightly modified and translated to all the other consoles out there. So let's just play a standard Recharged. Look, if you've seen Recharged Asteroids, you know what to expect. Let's at least get a couple of power-ups just to show you what it's like. You have that Megan McDuffie soundtrack, hyperspace. Come on, UFO, we want some power-ups. There he is. He's way over there. Come here. Got him. What did I get? The laser. Boom! Let's blow some stuff up. A far cry from the classic games that are on here. You know, the Gamestation Go is really upping its game, pun intended, in bringing us more modern games on a handheld like this. In that way, they're justifying the expense and also justifying why do we have this nice widescreen monitor, this screen, when in fact we only need the middle of it for most games. Well, it's because we're running more modern things on here than just 40-year-old games. Oh, there's a power-up. What did I get? Oh, bullet trail. Nice, so the entire length of the bullet hits them. Yeah. Next up is Berzerk. Now, Berzerk, this version of Berzerk Recharged, dual-stick shooter. So, just like we saw with some of the games over in the Atari library, dual-stick shooter here, left stick, right stick. Okay, let's go Berzerk. All right, single player. Okay, we have all the options here, your achievements and everything there. Again, no online. I'll do the Recharged version with power-ups, sure. And this will show you how to move, shoot, ABXY, dash with the left bumper, power up with the right bumper, and in fact, those are illuminated. So, here we go, we can try it out. Dash with the left bumper. There's the dash. And power up I don't have hit yet, so here we go. Dual stick shooter. Oh, auto's coming that way. Can I go out here? Sure I can. Whoa! Get him. All right, cleared that room. Get out of here. All right, shoot some bad guys over here before auto gets to us. Whoa, bullets coming at me. Here he comes. He's coming that direction. I'll go this way, shoot a couple more of these guys. No, auto, no. Some turrets there. Great. Get this guy. Oh, I timed that just flawlessly to run right into that bullet. All right, look, it's Berzerk Recharged. You know the game, and here it is. Let's try the next one. Now again, you see what lights up? The paddle controller. So now you have the option of using the paddle, well, spinner actually. It's a paddle in this case. There we go. Single player with power-ups. Oh, I got an achievement right away. Look at there. There we go. Really the big deal with this breakout was all the power-ups, you know? Whoa, double ball. I can manage it. I'm finding the spinner is working really well, really responsive. I mean, you can see me moving my fingers and what's getting done. Ah, bullets up here. I hate those bullets. I expect for a lot of people, one of the big selling points of the Gamestation Go is going to be access to these recharged games. Because, you know, I hear it all the time. We have these other games in 1,000 different devices. And we do. Not everybody does on the planet, but most of us enthusiasts do. And it's nice to have a handheld like this, or any device really, that has these baked right in as part of the price of entry. Right? You don't have to buy it and then go to a store and then buy some games to go in it. It's got these, what are these all, in the last couple of years these games came out, right? These recharge games. They're all included now for the cost of entry to get into the Gamestation Go. Now, admittedly, the visuals are just slightly different on this version, but I mean, it plays just the way I recall the last time I played Breakout Recharged. The frame rate might be a teensy bit lower. There was a bullet there that almost got me, but I was able to navigate quickly thanks to this spinner. All right, look, I could play Breakout Recharged forever. I'm going to go ahead and let it go there. Let's move on to the next one. How about some Centipede? This is the one they were showing off at CES and we knew was going to be here. So, of course, Centipede is going to utilize the trackball. It's already lit up down here, as you can see. So, Centipede Recharged. Press A to play. There we go. You can bump across here. Look at your scores, your achievements, all that same stuff. Single player. I'll probably die quickly. Let's do classic recharge with power-ups. That means you get 3 lives. That's the difference. Now, the power-ups in this one were spiders, if I remember right. The spiders you kill and you get power-ups from them, I think. This one starts off a little slow, as I recall, and I'm experiencing that here as well. Yeah. I haven't even seen a spider yet. Where you at, spider? There he is. Whoa! Explosion. Yeah, that power up with the spider. That makes all the difference. How come I can't kill those guys? There he goes. What'd I get? Oh, a little faster shot. Love it. Got some centipede heads down here in my domain. I don't care for that. Whoa! Explosive shots. That was cool. Oh, sent them all down to the bottom. That's not great. That's not great. More spiders down there. Got him. What'd I get? Bullet trail. All right. Whoa! That'll clean them up until I run into something. There's too much stuff going on the screen at once. I mean, look, it is Centipede Recharged, like you probably played on other platforms, and now it's baked in here to the Gamestation Go. Let's try the last one. And that's, of course, Missile Command Recharged. Going to use that trackball again. Let's fire it up. All right. It's a McDuffie soundtrack, A to play. There we go, same thing. Got all access to our information here. Single player, pick how do you want to play. We're going to play, well, the recharge version with power-ups. Yeah. Here we go. Now, it automatically fires from the correct silos, so you don't have multiple buttons, so just one here. I play this Recharged arcade cabinet quite a bit too, which is quite fun. And I think that your cities actually, they respawn themselves. They kind of repopulate. There's a power up. Let's see what I got. Oh, got tons of bullet mode. Love it. Just like as before, we talked about Missile Command with the trackball before. Because it's smaller, it takes less effort on your thumb to move around. So if you're used to just winging that thing with your shoulder, that's going to be overkill here, and it's going to move too quickly. So just small adjustments is what I found as I've gotten used to the Gamestation Go's controls. It works just fine. It's precise control. Look, what if a little bit bigger? Yeah, like that arcade stick's going to give us? Sure, I'll enjoy that too. Oh, bad guy over here. Get him. No, don't shoot at me. There's really no substitute for a trackball in a game like this. When I need to get to the other side of the screen really quickly, I can't wait for a digital control to say, yeah, get over there with a little acceleration. Ooh, lost a turret. Yeah, and so that's Missile Command Recharged. I believe the inclusion of and implementation of here, these Recharged games in the Go, like I said, are going to be a big reason most people pick up the Go, or a lot of people do, certainly, depending upon your age and your familiarity with these games and how many other places you have these other classic Atari games. But I think it's a big reason to pick up the Gamestation Go if you like to play those on the go and don't have another device that can do that already. I like to spend a little time with Pac-Man. There are just 3 games here, and Pac-Man here, its inclusion, great. Its implementation, not as good as the Recharged games. Let me show you what I mean. So what we have available are classic Pac-Man, the speed-up version of Pac-Man, and then the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man. And in all 3 cases, what we have is probably not quite right, and it needs a little more work. That's where the software comes into play. That's where we'd like to see some improvement done in the software of the Gamestation Go. Let me start with Pac-Man. So yeah, you launch it. The first thing I notice, aspect ratio, out of whack. That's nearly square. That's not 4:3. All my characters are stretched out. Now, I played a version of this on a Gamestation Go some months ago, and it was the original arcade ROM of Pac-Man. However, listen to this. No. You know, sounds? Not for nothing, but ghosts are not supposed to be able to come out of the pin and come up like he just did. Blinky just did. That's illegal. The more you learn about Pac-Man, the more you're accustomed to the rules, the more you find these conversions just aren't, they aren't the Pac-Man you want. Now, one thing I'll say, the positive, I'm able to steer really well with his D-pad, way better than I thought I'd be able to. I had said to myself before, look, I'm not even going to play this without an arcade stick because a D-pad just can't do it, but this little D-pad is doing quite well. Even though the version of Pac-Man, what is that, ripping noise? It's just, you know, and here's the thing. It'd be one thing if like, oh, well, this hardware can't handle it. But no, check this out. If I throw the authentic, real Pac-Man arcade ROM on that SD card and fire it up, don't mind the aspect ratio, I didn't load an artwork file or anything, but this hardware is more than up to the task of running the correct version of Pac-Man, where the sounds aren't wonky and the rules don't change. Why they opted to go with the altered version when their hardware is more than capable of running the authentic? I gotta hope it's some kind of a licensing restriction, because yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play Pac-Man on this, you need to load up your own, because the one that came with it is not the right version of Pac-Man. Speed up mode Pac-Man, same thing, only faster. Wrong aspect, square instead of vertical. Again, credits. You can even see like some masking up there in the top covering up part of the maze. Can you see that? It's just faster. But it's the same weird sounds, the same wrong rules version of Pac-Man. Like, I really hope they can fix this in software and just put the right version of Pac-Man on here. There's no question that it works. Yeah, those sounds aren't doing it for me. Okay. And then we have the 2600 version of Pac-Man, Todd Fry's version, which is here and is right, but look at the layout. In the middle of the screen, squished up like this. I mean, I guess I could come down and change the display to modify the aspect ratio, but that doesn't make it right. That just makes it a different kind of wrong. So that's not the answer. Look, you can play it, certainly. Why is all the other 2600 emulation framed and positioned correctly, while Pac-Man, one of the features on this, is wonky? And is it not just me? No, because check out this. If I throw Pac-Man on the SD card and fire it up, it's right. It's just a software glitch. I talked about this earlier. It's a little bit misconfigured. The hardware is there. The games are there. It's just tweaking of the environment for the games, getting the right version of Pac-Man in here. So the Pac-Man edition on this, it's an Atari Gamestation Go, so that doesn't factor in hugely into my review, although it was a big advertised feature, so I'm going to have to factor it in. But it doesn't break my heart because I can load the correct versions onto the SD card if I want. But for everyone who can't do that or doesn't have the interest, they're going to be playing a wonky version of Pac-Man, no matter which version you pick, because it's just not quite right. Let's move along from Pac-Man to one of the other more featured and more modern games on the Gamestation Go, and that's this collection of Balls of Steel pinball games. And we're going to talk about some of the screen orientation and screen quality in the midst of doing this. But even if you have music turned off, when you jump in here, this package is going to start talking to you right away and playing music. Here we go.
Taste my steel.
Taste my steel, says Barbarian. We got Barbarian.
Watch out for spiders.
Centipede.
Go kill some aliens.
Darkside. Devil's Island.
Report for duty.
Firestorm. Missile Command, my favorite.
It's gonna get us!
And Mutation. And once you're here, you can tap the Y button and understand how to play these pinball games. So they explain that the bumpers and the triggers are left and right bumpers. You can use the bottom ones or the top ones, either one. Settings, to cycle settings inside of the pinball game. You have number of players here with Y. You have A for launch the ball and start. And you can nudge with the D-pad. So you can nudge that table when you're playing, just like you'd want to in a pinball machine. It talks about gameplay and how it works. It describes the different ones. The 7 different tables, expert tips, which are really just how to play pinball, honestly.
It's gonna get us!
All right, let's get to Missile Command. We'll play a couple of these, not all 7, but you'll get the idea. So let's jump into Missile Command. When it launches, it just starts scrolling right away. And I want to take this time to take a look at the screen. I know we've been looking at this for a while, but these pinball machines are so very colorful, and they use the whole 16:9 screen. This is a great place to show you the excellent viewing angle of this screen. Like, look how far I can turn it and angle it and still be able to see the screen pretty well. I know you're seeing a lot of reflections in my studio here because I have lights and stuff on the wall, but you can see it doesn't just gray out on you. It's a really, look at that. Look at it. I'm really happy with this screen. I mean, they didn't scrimp on the screen, and you can't do that on a handheld, really, So, yeah, let's see. So settings, I can go in and change like how the scroll works, shadows on or off, difficulty, look at the high scores, things like that. Other people have asked, before I start this game, have asked about flipping this either upside down, upside down for some games when you want the spinner and the dial on this side where it would be down here, or asking whether or not you can play pinball in a vertical aspect like this, which it would be theoretically possible if you had, the external controller, I guess, but then you couldn't get to the bumpers. The answer to all those things is no. No. In fact, we talked to my arcade at CES this past year, asked them about the idea of flipping the screen, and they said no, but something we could entertain in the future. And I'm sure that's also, I know this package supports vertical orientation, so maybe they offer that too. Now, again, how would you get to the bumpers if you're doing that, or all the controls? You probably need the external controller to do that. It's not something that can't be done. It's not something that's included on the shipping version of this software. Now, a lot of people asked about it related to the screen and flipping it, that sort of thing. No rotation, no vertical aspect. And while, honestly, in pinball, it might be nice to have it vertically, to play it that way, I like being able to see the screen larger, so even if it was vertical, I think I'd probably play it this way. I'd have to see. I'd have to find out. But either way, let's start a game and play. Now, flippers. Let me catch the ball just so I can show you the nudge. Whoa! Okay, I've got it. So just show you the nudge. I'm going to bump it up. There, you can see that. I'm going to bump it to the right. You can see the nudge. I can bump it to the left. Yeah, so the nudge is there. It doesn't move the table, but it moves the physics of the ball. So that's with the D-pad. Combo. And so even though it is horizontally viewing the screen like you would on a monitor versus you know, a vertical game, it doesn't feel all that claustrophobic to me. Look, this is going to be like so many things. It's subjective. Is it the way you like to play? Hit a jackpot. Whoa. I have found myself spending a lot of time. I just get lost in these pinball games. They're nicely immersive. They're not horribly difficult. I mean, I haven't set on normal difficulty, so I'm sure that helps. Yeah, let me give you a sample of some of the others while we're here. Here is Mutation, kind of a radiation outbreak kind of style game.
Can you control it, Professor?
This one's got some flippers up top, I see. I never remember to use those, but they're up there.
Split the atom.
Oh, there's this top flipper. Use a little. I did a little bit. I made it up there.
Is lit.
I locked the ball, or... Oh, up there again. Oh, missed it that time. Yeah, so that's Mutation. Here's Barbarian. It's kind of vaguely like a gauntlet-y, warlords-y, kind of Dungeons & Dragons fantasy themed. Again, extra flippers on this one. Oh, I actually hit it. Wow. Ooh, there's a snake up there. Whoa. How do I find the mountain pass? I'll find it eventually. Here's Centipede. If you're a Centipede fan, here's a different way to play some Centipede based on the Atari Classic, of course. Be careful. More bonus flippers on this one. Ooh, four flippers. 2 sets of bonus flippers. Heard some Centipede sound effects in there. Yep. There, using that flipper up top. Yeah, come on, get it. Nope, there's a scorpion. Didn't quite get him. He's just kind of an obstacle, isn't he? All right, there's my scorpion point. Oh, I got 43 seconds left on the scorpion. I keep hitting him, but he's not, doesn't hurt him, really. Maybe it's just for bonus points. Whoa! Here's Darkside. It's kind of a alien, space marine kind of themed game. Oh, save them all? Yes, thank goodness. I should point out that like so many other games here on the go, these pinball machines will let you enter your initials and does save your high score when you make it to the... It has this high score table. I think it's like the top 10 or so. Saves it on here, so if you want to share this console with others and work on perfecting your high score, that's supported on the pinball games as well. Oh, I made it to the ramp again. Here you got Devil's Island, kind of a witch doctor voodoo kind of, yeah, themed sort of game. Oh, what else should call that theme? A ball lock, there's a ramp. Woo! I haven't played much of this one. This is a nice table. I like this one. Oh, cool effects too. Sounds are great. And finally, here's a quick look at Firestorm. This is a firefighter game, right? So see police and firefighter there, and you have a headquarters and a towering inferno, it looks like. So getting them. So if I can use these little flippers, keep things going up here. Yeah, a little bit. Oh, yeah. I'm maximizing those. Look at that. You got a whole other playfield up here. That's cool. There we go. With all the bombs. Oh, it must be like a general anti-terrorism thing with bombs and fire. And yeah, okay, so it's more than just firefighting, it looks like. Yeah. When I put out the word a couple of weeks ago asking what people wanted to see in this review, nobody, literally nobody asked me to be sure to show off all these Jaleco and Piko titles. And I know this review is going to be long, but I want to spend just a moment to show you what's in here. So from both of these libraries, we have 8-bit, 16-bit, and arcade versions of these libraries. So just quickly want to run through. We've got some baseball here, City Connection, pinball, another pinball game, Racket Attack, Totally Rad. Then we got the 16-bit version, so this would have been probably, Sega and Super Nintendo style games, I expect. More sports on there. Tough Enough. And then arcade games, same thing. And some of these you might recognize from the arcade. A few of them I certainly do. But these menus also follow the same structure of being able to, being able to favorite things, being able to pop in and learn how to play the game, learning what the controls are. Everything that we spent a lot of time looking at over in Atari is, P47 is here. That's a good side-scrolling shooter. Some puzzle games. Oh, Skyfox, okay, yeah. And then they break it out into multiplayer, and then I have my favorites in there. And I want to show you through the Piko again. I could spend a lot of time on this. Again, I understand. I hear people aren't dying to hear what these are. You see a list. 8 Eyes, we've seen in several other of these, the 8-bit versions. These are the Piko games. Take a look at the 16-bit ones. The Humans, I played that in the Gamestation Pro review. I remember, it was cool. Kind of Lemmings-ish. There's a couple of Top Racer, a couple of those. Those are decent. And then some arcade games, just a few. Fancy World, a puzzle game. Lucky Boom. Manic Square. And World Rally, a racing game again. So, yeah, so in addition to all the Atari stuff, as we saw in the box, Jaleco and Piko stuff. Now, before I briefly hook this up to the TV to show you what the output looks like, I want to just talk about firmware updates. Firmware updates on the Gamestation Go is so ridiculously simple compared to updates on the Gamestation Pro from last year, a couple of years ago. You literally come down into updates, go in and select your wireless network. Here's a list of networks in my area. You might see a theme in there. Pick it, put in the password, and then you can request a software update. I'm on the release, version 1.0. Here's the thing though. You don't even have to put in any work. If there's a new update, it's going to let you know. You're going to get a pop-up that says, hey, there's a new firmware version available. Would you like to go download it? You can reject it, or you can tap A to go accept it, and it'll prompt you to click to download the update. It just says, don't turn off your machine. It goes through the process of downloading it, goes through the process of installing it, it restarts itself, and you're on the new firmware. All the work that I put into teaching you how to do that on the Gamestation Pro a couple years ago is entirely unnecessary on the Gamestation Go because it just kind of works out of the box and almost does all the stuff for you without having to dig into settings and plug in wires and download software and get access to a PC. That's all gone. So the ability to do that means now you can keep this updated without any extra effort by just clicking yes, I want the new update on my Wi-Fi, and you're going to get fixes, you're going to get software improvements that we're hoping for, you're going to get maybe new games, all things that My Arcade said they're interested in doing on the Gamestation Go. And now you can get those new updates in the latest version just by clicking. So many of the topics we've talked about so far in this review could easily be broken out into their own video and dive deeper down the rabbit hole. You know, the different games available, the different functions, the different stuff. But these next couple really could. And the first one I want to talk about is hooking this up to a TV or external display via HDMI. The first thing you're going to want to do is turn it off, and they explain why, and I'll explain why in a minute. Then plug in that provided HDMI cable on this end, your TV on the other end, and power it back up. And there it goes, booting into the menu. Now, of course, nothing on the screen here, but the Smart Glow buttons are still there. In fact, when it drops to the menu, you can see it's just the D-pad and the Y and A buttons just like it would be. And you drop the same menu, which is actually I think there's two different menus. One for the HDMI, because you can see these icons are much larger here, and it always outputs in 1080p. I mention that because I tried to plug it into my older TV that only takes up to 720, so just make sure you plug it into a modern TV. Now, this is not a Switch. I know it's in vaguely the shape of a Nintendo Switch and it's a handheld, but it's important to know the distinction here that it doesn't switch between handheld and HDMI on the fly, not mid-game. And in fact, they're very clear about that when you go into the menu and you check down here in miscellaneous, and it explains when you connect to the TV, it's going to restart the Gamestation Go because it has to adapt to the different resolution and the different display. So if you unplug this, it's going to reboot and start again here. It's not going to be mid-screen. So this isn't a Switch midstream game. This is a choose HDMI or choose handheld, and then the system's going to reboot when you do that. They suggest you even power it off before you connect, which is what I usually do. Everything we've talked about so far is also present when you play via HDMI. It's just you would control it here, but look at it on this screen. A couple things to point out. Now, I suppose at this point, if you're one of those folks that didn't care for the handedness layout here, now you could flip this upside down. And now you could drive it with your right hand and know where these buttons are if you're on a monitor. So that's something, that's an unintentional function that you could certainly do. Everything seems to play pretty well except for pinball. I will point out, I found that pinball behaves a little more sluggishly when running out through HDMI. Let me show you. So I have Centipede up and running here. I just want you to notice, maybe it's me, but I want to make sure I pointed it out. I feel like the scrolling is a little bit behind, maybe. Just this full screen 1080p scrolling, maybe giving the GSG a little bit of struggle. I'm waiting for the ball to fall, and it just seems to take a little longer to handle that full screen scrolling. Now, I have only seen this problem manifest in the balls of steel, and in fact, you can compensate for it a bit. If you go in the menu and you set your scroll to hard, it's going to not try to be so smooth, and what I've found is it actually will be a little better in that it keeps up a little better. So maybe it's a different setting needed based on whether you're plugged in HDMI or you're plugged in, or not plugged in at all. You're just playing the game. But I think watch with the hard scrolling mode turned on. Nice. I think you'll see a little bit better. None of that delay to scroll there that I was seeing. And admittedly, maybe this is some kind of placebo effect. Maybe it's just my imagination, but to my eye, it feels like it's not scrolling quite as smoothly. As you might expect, all of the standard, 8-bit, 16-bit arcade stuff works great, but even the Recharged stuff I'm finding works really, really well when hooked up to the TV. Let's launch Asteroids. Now this seems to look, play, move, animate just as smoothly as it did on the small monitor. Ooh, power up down here. But a couple more caveats about being hooked up via HDMI. Like, until we have those extra controller accessories, you're probably thinking, hey, if I hook up to the TV, I'm going to want to sit back with a wireless controller. Well, there is no wireless controller, and those come out in December. And then, ooh, rapid fire, I like that. Oh yeah, tear it up. Ooh, an achievement. But once those are available to add on, I think really the hooked up to the TV is going to be a great option, but it's a little limiting now since you're tethered with the cable. Now here's something that I feel is a side effect of the fact that the resolution you play at when hooked up via HDMI is not the same as the resolution when you're playing on the small screen, and that is the tuning for certainly for the trackball feels a bit off when playing in these. I want you to see as I move how quickly it kind of sometimes jitters and jumps. Are you seeing that as I try to move smoothly across? I think they probably did some software tuning to make the trackball work well at the resolution that we play at. But then when it goes to this higher resolution, the tuning is just not quite the same. I think you can see as I kind of move smoothly across, it's a little more jerky. This is something, as they tuned it for the small screen, I think they'll be able to tune it for the large screen, but it is another example of how, like with Pac-Man, like with a couple other little things we've seen, there's a little more fine-tuning to be done. I'll even mention that on a rare occasion, at least one time I'll say, I've actually had a Recharged game crash on me while I'm in the midst of playing it, but only when hooked up to HDMI. I've not seen that on the system itself. So everything in Atari, everything in Pac-Man, Jaleco and Piko, they're going to perform here just like you expect them to, just like they do on the small screen out of the gate. However, I think there is some improvement to be made in how these games, these more complex games like Balls of Steel and the Recharged games, how they perform while plugged into HDMI. So what you have is certainly an upgraded Gamestation Pro with more capable internals that was probably built handheld first, with optimizations for the handheld first in mind, with the thought that we're going to optimize it for the big screen later. I'm not saying it doesn't work, I'm saying it works fine. I'm saying there's optimizations to be made for better performance for several of the more advanced game systems and platforms when plugged in via HDMI to play on your big TV. So hopefully, between now and December, when those extra controllers are available, we'll see that via firmware. All right, this is the last big topic I want to cover here at the end of the review, and I saved it for the end because this is kind of a double-edged sword. This is a feature that is not advertised by My Arcade. It is not a feature that this is sold to have. However, it's something that many of us are very excited about, and that is expandability, the ability to add your own games via that SD card slot and play them here. It was something that was unadvertised and a great, cool secret feature of the Gamestation Pro. Many of us used it in that way to play games outside of the scope of what ships on the unit. So for starters, if you haven't heard this yet, the official line from My Arcade is the Gamestation Go is at least as expandable as the original Gamestation Pro. So in fact, if you had an SD card configured for the Gamestation Pro, you could throw it in here and do everything you did there here and more. So I'm going to take and pop an SD card in the slot and look what pops up. We get that familiar little menu, local storage or micro SD card. If we select local storage, it goes right back to the menu. But if we pick micro SD card, we're dropped to this familiar blue menu that has, I would call them hints or Easter eggs at the top. Now we know how this menu works, and you'll see it with a loaded SD card. I just have one game on this one. Copy ROM to SD card /games, capital G, we know that. And subdirectories. What subdirectories do they suggest? Links, PC Engine, PSX. Now careful, don't get too excited yet. NGPC, so Neo Geo Pocket Color, Dreamcast, and WonderSwan, among others. None of these were listed before. Now, before you get too excited, it's going to take some community work to figure out how to get all of these to work, but I'm going to show you a lot of stuff that you might not expect is working already. So for starters, all the 2600 games, plus the fact that if you name the folder appropriately, just like we did with the Gamestation Pro, you can use the spinner /paddle with your Atari 2600 spinner and paddle games. Here's Blueprint for the Atari 5200. We could not really play that on the Gamestation Pro because we didn't have a numpad. And while it's not illuminated here, my pound key is changing number of players. My star key is changing difficulty of the game. And if I start, yeah, we're playing. There's a little bit of a whistle in the background. I know what that is. Look, so much stuff I'm going to show you here is working, but not working perfectly. And while My Arcade doesn't owe us any improvements here to this particular function of the Gamestation Go, it sure is something we'd all like to see working if we have the opportunity. So here's some minor 2049er, and while you could launch this game on the Atari Gamestation Pro a couple of years ago, you really couldn't play it very well because you need the buttons to use the elevator. You have to be able to push 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have a numpad. What if we want to go up to floor 4? The numpad is working. So, at least for the games that are configured on here, we're going to be able to play these games the way they were intended using more of these controls. Here's just another random 7800 game. I have the Dig Dug translation running here. Works just fine. The buttons are configured the way you need because it's just 2 buttons. Really easy. And of course, many of the other things that were working before. Game Boy Advance, arcade games, the way you configure for the Gamestation Pro. Yes, I think a full video on all of this is important, but I want to touch on some of the stuff that is the most requested. And some of the stuff that's up here. Let's start with the links. You don't know how much it makes me smile to see Atari Lynx games running here on the Gamestation Go, and running quite well too. And what about all those buttons and stuff? Yeah, so the bumpers are up here, the pause button is up here. So let's jump in and take a look. So let's just start a quick game. Yeah, we're gonna hop in there, standard milk run, just to show you. Fire button is up here. So you have the 2 option buttons. Option 1 and 2 are up here. Option 1 up here turns off the motor, and 2 turns it on. You have the pause button right there. And in fact, the combinations of those buttons, when you would click them, if you remember, that's for rotating the screen. So since Lynx supports it natively, if you're so inclined, you could have the controlled D-pad over here and the buttons over there if you wanted to. But that's just because it was native to the Lynx. I just want to shoot this guy down. I'm going to be loading this thing up with Lynx. This is my #1 platform that I wanted on the Gamestation Go. Maybe Atari didn't let My Arcade do it, but Atari can't stop us from doing it ourselves and playing this entire library. Such a great bunch of games on the Lynx. Almost got him. Almost got him. Got him. I don't hear a lot of talk about it. Here's Todd's Adventures in Slime World. Probably one of, if not my favorite game on the platform. It's playing great here. Now, there's some question about where the buttons are located. We're going to cover all that in the other video. Sometimes I'll go, hey, let me know in the comments if you want to see a follow-up video about upgrades. I know you do. I will be working on it. Oh, but that's just great. Oh, and what is this, pray tell? Could this be Intellivision running on the Atari Gamestation Go? Well, by golly, it is. Look at this. So I'm moving around the map. Now, The button layout here is not right. It is not fully playable, but by goodness, I can move around. I can launch a game. This is one of those things where if the software could get a little bit better, and I fully well expect that, look, I can't move up right now. I fully well expect my arcade intended to include Intellivision because it's an Atari license. That's probably why this numpad is on here. And I can use it a little bit. See, I fired an arrow. It bounced, but all the directions don't work. I don't have an up. You saw that. It's so close. The game's launched. And listen.
Intel Electronics presents Bomb Squad.
IntelliVoice is working too. If you just load a bunch of Intellivision games on here and try to play right now under version 1, you're going to have a bad time. But it's here. Let's hope that my arcade hears our cries and enhances. They don't owe us anything, but would be great if they would enhance the built-in emulators we can access via that SD card and make them just a little bit better so that we can actually play the games we would love to play on their new console. NGC, Neo Geo Color, was another one of the items listed in the potential list of folders. And yeah, I'm getting Neo Geo Color and Pocket Color to play just fine here. With more controls and beefier internals, I'm having a lot more success playing Super Nintendo games on the Gamestation Go than I was on the Gamestation Pro 2. And look, none of these buttons are activating a menu. My bumpers, my ABXY, that menu problem we had on the Gamestation Pro. Now, I'm not going to say that every button is exactly where it ought to be. We'll talk about that when we get into the expansion video, but better internals makes for a better emulation experience. Certainly better than where we were when we left off with the Gamestation Pro. You want to see something a little bit crazy? How about Dreamcast Crazy Taxi running on the Atari Gamestation Go? Now, I don't hear any sound on it right now, but I can certainly get into the game, and it plays. So, room to improve? Yeah, on a platform that there was no promise of being available inside of the Gamestation Go. There you go. Pick your driver. And I don't want to get anybody's hopes up prematurely, but this is Mario Kart 64 running on it. You can hear the audio is a little bit stuttery, and it doesn't run at full speed, but we have potential here. Feels like this is really pushing the Gamestation Go to its limits, but sometimes it plays pretty well. Little power slide here. There we go, a little boost. And maybe room for optimization. Who knows? Once clever, industrious hackers get their hands on the Gamestation Go, what possibilities are going to open up for us? That's just a taste of some of the expandability that I've been able to do experimenting with the Gamestation Go since I've had it. I know that I haven't explored everything, but there's more to look at and more details to understand. I'll cover that when I talk about expansion in a follow-up video later, so just make sure you're subscribed and stick around. We'll have way more Gamestation Go videos coming as we listen to you and hear what it is you want to learn more about. And I'm guessing this is one of those things. You're still here? Outstanding! If you've made it this far, then you likely already know if the Atari Gamestation Go is something you're going to be interested in, but let's review. And I'm going to break this up into 3 sections. Firstly, the hardware. The GSG delivers the broad variety of input types needed to properly enjoy Atari classics, and then some. We have a spinner for Tempest, we have a trackball for Centipede, and we have a numpad for 5200 games, and hopefully more down the road. And more buttons and triggers than you can shake a stick at. All that comes with a vibrant 7-inch screen with great viewing angles and the option to connect to an external display if you prefer. This is a well-planned and well-executed piece of hardware that opens the door to any number of possibilities down the road, and I'm going to score the GSG's hardware 4.5 tokens out of 5. Secondly, I want to reflect on the version 1.0 shipping software. There's a great variety here of not only retro Atari games from beloved consoles and arcade machines, many of which are only now playable on a handheld with the proper controls for the first time, but also a handful of modern Atari Recharged games and those pinball tables that I found myself enjoying more than I expected. In addition to the games, you get the background, instructions, screenshots, gameplay videos, and that cool smart glow that lights up only the controls you'll need for the game you're playing, making these games more approachable than they are on comparable systems. It's not all rosy though. The keypad is clearly underutilized, there's gotta be a story there. Speaking of the numpad, Star Raiders is suspiciously absent, fan favorite Indy 500 lacks spinner support, some vector games like Tempest render with missing lines, the Pac-Man problems we discussed, and HDMI performance on some games all come to mind. The good news is that these are all software issues, and getting the latest improvements and fixes are now as easy as connecting to your Wi-Fi hotspot. Will these things be addressed? Well, I both expect and hope that this will be the case, but for now, I'm going to score the 2025 shipping GSG software 3¼ tokens out of 5. And finally, I want to address the overall experience of using the Gamestation Go. I've spent the last several months using the GSG regularly, and even more in the last few weeks leading up to this review. Not once did I flip on the power switch and not enjoy myself. In a retro mood, I'm playing adventure. Long for the arcade, I'm running around in major havoc. Want something more modern? Pinball or Recharged. And then, and this is neither advertised nor officially supported by the manufacturer, but as a tinkerer, I can play with expansion using that SD card slot. I wish I had the footage of the first time I got Lynx games working, or was able to launch an Intellivision game. I was giddy. Just having my Lynx library running on a modern handheld, that just makes me happy. Now I know these are all intangibles and entirely subjective, but it's an important part of the time I've spent with the device so far, so I'm going to score the Gamestation Go's overall experience 4¾ tokens out of 5. All of that taken into consideration and factored into my final review score, I'm going to rank the new Atari Gamestation Go from my arcade 4¼ tokens out of 5. My arcade has taken a huge swing here, and no product this ambitious, no matter the manufacturer, is going to be all things to all people. For me though, the GSG is a standout new class of product against which future handhelds are going to be compared, and I believe it's well worth both your time and money. Thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end of this video. Keep an eye on the pinned comment down below for updates or addendums to information I've given you here. Links to purchase this and associated peripherals will be in the video description, and plenty more GSG videos are coming your way in the next few weeks and months. Here's a link to the full Gamestation Go playlist you can go watch right now. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this video though, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.